Alright, in this video we're going to talk about the Greek hero Achilles and a book by Lord Raglan entitled The Hero, A Study in Tradition, Myth, and Dreams, which was published in 1936. Lord Raglan studied heroes from around the world, and he found a number of items that were common to the heroes' biographies. First, Lord Raglan says that typically the hero's mother is a royal virgin. She could be a princess or a queen, or, in my opinion, even a goddess. I would regard a goddess as royal. As for the term virgin, this could mean that the mother has never had sexual relations, or I would even argue that this could be the mother's first child. The hero's father is often a king and oftentimes a near relative of his mother. The circumstances surrounding the hero's conception are unusual, so the circumstances surrounding how the father and mother got together to conceive the child. And Raglan says that the hero is typically the son of a god, and I would add that a goddess is also possible. Oftentimes, around the time that the child is born, an attempt is made, usually by the hero's father or maternal grandfather, to kill the child, but the hero is spirited away. The hero is rescued from this attempt on the hero's life, and the hero is raised by foster parents or a single foster parent in a faraway country. Here the term far is relative. It could be a few miles, it could be 100 miles, it could be more. Then Lord Raglan says, after the hero's birth, you really hear nothing about the hero's childhood typically, but upon reaching manhood, the hero ultimately returns or goes to his future kingdom. Upon arrival at the future kingdom, the hero will defeat a king or giant, dragon, wild beast, and then the hero will marry a princess, oftentimes the daughter of the king that the hero has just defeated. And then the hero himself will become king. The hero will rule for a while and not much will happen. The hero will prescribe some laws, but eventually the hero will lose favor with the gods and or the hero's subjects, and the hero will be driven from the throne and the city. After that, the hero will meet with a mysterious death. Oftentimes that death occurs at the top of a hill, and the hero's children, if the hero has any, do not succeed him as king. The hero's body is not buried, but ultimately the hero may get one or more holy sepulchres. A sepulchre is another word for tomb. And so there may be some sort of sacred place that people regarded as the location of the hero's burial or the hero's death. All right, so let's see how this plays out or does not play out with respect to Achilles. Achilles' mother, as you read in Homer's Iliad, is Thetis, and I would consider her royal. She is a goddess of the sea after all. And perhaps you could consider her virginal. Achilles was Thetis's first child. Achilles' father was a mortal. His name is Peleus, and he was king of a town called Phthia. Thetis and Peleus were not related. The circumstances of Achilles' conception are unusual because Thetis was a reluctant bride, and Peleus had to wrestle Thetis in order to get her to marry him. And in the process, Thetis changed her shape a couple of times. In this vase painting, you see some snakes biting Peleus and a lion sort of on Peleus's back. Thetis was a shapeshifter, and so the vase painter is trying to represent Thetis changing into different shapes. When Peleus tried to embrace Thetis, she changed into the shape of a serpent, she changed into the shape of a lion, and so on. Now, as for Achilles and an attempt on his life, we don't hear about this in Homer's Iliad. There are some sources that say that Thetis was trying to make Achilles immortal by dipping him in the river Styx. Homer does not tell us this, but other sources do. And this is not an attempt to kill Achilles, although Peleus might have felt that way. But Thetis was not trying to kill Achilles. She was trying to make him immortal. And so there's really no rescue for Achilles because there was no attempt to kill him. But Achilles was raised by a foster parent outside of Phthia. Achilles was raised by the Centaur Chiron, as we see in this vase painting, where we see the centaur holding young Achilles in his hand. But other than Achilles being raised by Centaur Chiron, we learn nothing about Achilles' childhood. On reaching manhood, Achilles does go somewhere, but not to his future kingdom. Instead, he goes to Troy to fight in the Trojan War. And he doesn't really have a victory over a king, a giant, dragon, or wild beast, although Achilles does have a victory over Hector and numerous other Trojan warriors. And in this vase painting, we see Achilles about to get into his chariot and drag Hector's body behind the chariot. On the far left, you see King Priam of Troy and his queen Hecuba mourning the death of their son, Hector. You can see his name written into the vase, or painted into the vase. And on the far right, you can also see the tomb of Achilles' best friend, Patroclus, and even the spirit of Patroclus sort of flying around above this tomb. So Achilles getting ready to drag Achilles, seen here with the shield. This is Achilles' charioteer. But Achilles getting ready to drag Hector around Patroclus' tomb and around the walls of Troy. Well, the next part of Lord Raglan's outline really doesn't apply to Achilles. He doesn't marry a princess, although there are stories that say that Achilles was in love with one of Priam's daughters. Achilles never becomes king either of Troy or of his native town of Phthia. So Achilles never reigns uneventfully, never prescribes laws. Achilles doesn't lose favor with the gods or his subjects, and Achilles isn't driven from the throne and city. Achilles does meet a mysterious death. In the 10th year of the Trojan War, the Trojan warrior Peleus shoots Achilles in the heel with an arrow, and apparently this is the one place on Achilles' body where he was vulnerable. And in this vase painting, this drawing from a vase painting, we see Peleus on the left, Achilles on the right, about to be struck in the heel with an arrow, and then the god Apollo in the center. Apollo was mad at Achilles. Earlier in the war, Achilles had killed one of Apollo's sons, and so Apollo held a grudge against Achilles. As far as we know, Achilles does not die at the top of a hill. Achilles does have a child, Neoptolemus, who himself eventually fought at Troy. That's how long the Trojan War lasted, long enough for Neoptolemus to grow up and come and fight at Troy. But Neoptolemus did not succeed Achilles as king. Achilles himself never became king, and so Neoptolemus doesn't become king either. In fact, Achilles' father, Peleus, outlives Achilles and Neoptolemus. So Achilles is actually cremated, and Achilles does have a couple of places in the region that are regarded as sort of the location of his death. In Homer's Iliad, we hear Achilles say that when he dies, he wants to be cremated, and he wants his ashes buried in the same urn as his friend Patroclus. So that's what we hear about in the Iliad. But if you go to Troy today, you can see a mound that is regarded as the burial place of Achilles. They call it the tomb of Achilles, although we have no idea whether Achilles is actually buried there or not. That's the story of the Greek hero Achilles through the lens of Lord Raglan's outline.